At 8:12 on a gray Monday morning, Allison Reed watched her manager place a folder on the conference table and realized that every page inside it had been designed to destroy her life. The room was too cold, as conference rooms always seemed to be when someone was about to lose a job. A long glass wall separated Allison from the accounting department, where people she had worked beside for 6 years pretended not to look in her direction. Beyond them, downtown Denver disappeared beneath a low ceiling of clouds. Vanessa Cole sat across from her with perfect posture, one hand resting on the folder. She wore a navy suit Allison had once complimented during a quarterly meeting. Beside Vanessa sat Daniel Mercer, the regional finance director, and Rebecca Shaw from Human Resources. Rebecca had placed Allison's personnel file beside her laptop. That frightened Allison more than the folder. "Allison," Daniel began, "we need you to answer some questions about a series of unauthorized payments." Allison looked from Daniel to Rebecca, then finally to Vanessa. "What payments?" Vanessa opened the folder. The first page showed a vendor transfer for $7,850. The second showed another for $9,200. There were 4 transfers in total, adding up to $40,000. Allison's employee identification number appeared beside every approval. Her electronic signature appeared at the bottom of every page. For several seconds, she could not understand what she was seeing. The documents looked familiar because they had been created using the same system she accessed every day. The formatting was correct. The authorization fields were correct. Even the abbreviated notes sounded like something she might write, but she had never approved those payments. "I didn't do this," she said. Daniel leaned back. "The approvals were made using your credentials." "I understand what the reports say. I'm telling you, I didn't approve them." Rebecca's voice was calm in the way people sounded when they had already decided what they believed. "Were your credentials ever shared with another employee?" Allison's stomach tightened. Months earlier, Vanessa had asked her to use a temporary shared credential while Vanessa was supposedly on vacation. The accounting department had been struggling with a backlog of vendor requests. Vanessa had called the arrangement a harmless shortcut. Just 2 weeks, she had promised. Allison had objected at first. Company policy prohibited shared credentials, especially for financial approvals. Vanessa had reminded her that 3 urgent vendors were threatening to suspend services. She had said the executive team knew about the temporary process. Allison had believed her. "Yes," Allison admitted. "There was a temporary credential." Daniel looked toward Vanessa. Vanessa sighed as if the confession disappointed her. "I created an emergency approval profile while I was away," she said. "But it was assigned to Allison. She was the only person authorized to use it." "That isn't what you told me," Allison said. Vanessa's expression changed by less than an inch. "What did I tell you?" "You said the profile was shared between us. You said you might need remote access if something urgent happened." "I never said that." Allison stared at her. Vanessa did not blink. Daniel pushed one of the reports across the table. The audit trail shows the transactions originated from the emergency profile. The profile was connected to your employee number. "Because Vanessa asked IT to connect it to my number." "Do you have that request in writing?" Allison opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The request had been made during a video call. Vanessa had followed it with a message that said only, "Thanks for handling the urgent approvals." No mention of shared access. No admission that Vanessa intended to use the profile herself. Allison looked again through the glass wall. Her coworkers were no longer pretending. Some had turned their chairs slightly. Others stared at their monitors with rigid attention. Vanessa folded her hands. "I tried to protect Allison," she said quietly. "She's been under significant pressure." Allison turned toward her. "What does that have to do with anything?" Vanessa looked at Daniel instead of answering. "She's a single mother. She has expenses most of us don't understand. Childcare, medical appointments, rent. I didn't want to believe she would do something like this, but desperation can change people." The words entered the room gently, almost sympathetically. That made them crueler. Allison felt heat rise beneath her collar. "My financial situation is not relevant." Rebecca glanced down at a note on her screen. "You requested a payroll advance last year. My daughter needed dental work. I paid it back. You also asked about overtime opportunities. Because I wanted to work overtime." Vanessa lowered her eyes as if embarrassed on Allison's behalf. "She's a desperate single mother," she told Daniel. "I think that made her the most vulnerable person on the team." Allison understood then. Vanessa was not improvising. She had been preparing this version of Allison for months. Tired, overwhelmed, financially unstable, grateful for extra work, willing to bend rules. Every harmless conversation had become evidence. Every request for flexibility had become motive. Every private difficulty had been saved like a receipt. Daniel closed the folder. The funds were transferred to accounts connected to a consulting vendor called Summit Administrative Solutions. "Do you know the company?" "No." "Have you ever communicated with anyone representing it?" "No." "Did you create the vendor profile?" "No." Daniel's mouth tightened. "The system says you did." "The system says someone using that profile did." Vanessa finally looked at Allison. "The numbers never tell the whole story," she said. "But sometimes they tell enough." It was a sentence Vanessa often repeated during audits. Allison had once admired it. She had thought it showed wisdom. Now it sounded like a warning. Rebecca reached beneath the table and placed a small gray envelope in front of Allison. "Until the investigation is complete, your access is suspended. We'll need your badge, laptop, and company phone." "You're suspending me based on 4 reports that Vanessa controlled? We're suspending you based on the available evidence. And my side of the story?" Rebecca's expression remained professionally blank. "No one is saying you won't have an opportunity to respond. You just asked for my badge." Daniel looked toward the glass wall. "Allison, please don't make this harder." Vanessa said nothing. Allison unclipped the badge from her belt. Her hand trembled once, and she hated that Vanessa saw it. She placed the badge on the table. Rebecca slid it into the envelope. "No one believes your story," she said, not unkindly. "The documentation is extensive." Allison looked at Vanessa. Vanessa's eyes held no triumph. Triumph would have been easier to understand. Instead, they held certainty. She believed Allison had nowhere to go. Allison stood. "I understand," she said. Then she walked through the accounting department while 40 people tried not to watch a desperate single mother carry her belongings toward the elevator. Allison's daughter was waiting outside the middle school when Allison arrived 23 minutes early. Lucy Reed was 12 years old and had recently begun wearing her brown hair in a loose braid over one shoulder. She carried a trumpet case in one hand and a purple backpack in the other. When she saw Allison's car, she smiled, then looked confused. "You're early." "I know. You're never early on Mondays." "I decided to surprise you." Lucy climbed into the passenger seat and studied her mother. Children noticed the details adults worked hardest to hide. Lucy noticed the missing badge. She noticed that Allison's laptop bag was in the back seat at an hour when it should have been beneath her office desk. She noticed the tension around Allison's mouth. Did something happen? Allison pulled away from the curb. "There's an issue at work." "What kind of issue?" "A mistake." "Your mistake?" "No." Lucy waited. Allison wished she could give her a version of the world in which honesty always defeated lies quickly. She wished she could promise that the people in charge examined every fact before making decisions. But Lucy was old enough to recognize false reassurance. "Someone made it look like I approved payments I didn't approve," Allison said. "Why?" "I don't know yet." "Are you in trouble?" "I've been suspended while they investigate." Lucy stared through the windshield. "Does that mean they think you stole money?" Allison's grip tightened around the steering wheel. "It means they believe the records more than they believe me." "But you didn't." "No." "Then show them." The simplicity of the answer almost broke her. "I'm going to try." They drove home beneath steady rain. Their apartment sat on the second floor of a brick building near a narrow park. It was not large, but Allison had made it warm with second-hand furniture, framed photographs, and the plants Lucy insisted on naming. On most afternoons, Allison changed clothes, checked homework, prepared dinner, and answered emails until bedtime. That afternoon, she placed the gray box from her office on the kitchen table. Lucy opened the refrigerator. "Can I make grilled cheese?" "Of course. Do you want one?" "I'm not hungry." Lucy removed the bread anyway. Allison sat in front of her personal laptop and tried to access her company email. The password had already been disabled. Her company cloud account was gone. Her internal messages were unreachable. She opened her phone and searched old text conversations with Vanessa. There were hundreds. Schedule changes, staffing questions, reminders, requests for weekend reports. She typed shared credential into the search bar. No results. She tried emergency profile. One result appeared. "Vanessa, thanks for taking care of the emergency profile while I'm gone. You always make things easier." The message proved Allison had used it. It did not prove Vanessa had access. Lucy placed a grilled cheese sandwich beside the laptop. "You have to eat." "Thank you. You always tell me thinking is harder when you're hungry." Allison looked at her daughter and forced herself to take a bite. After dinner, she created a timeline. The emergency profile had been established in February. Vanessa had supposedly traveled to Phoenix for 2 weeks to help her sister after surgery. During that period, Allison used the profile for legitimate payments. The unauthorized transfers began in April. Allison had not even known the profile remained active. She wrote down every date shown in the reports she remembered from the meeting. 2 transfers had occurred on Fridays after 8 p.m. One occurred early Sunday morning. The final transfer had been approved on a Tuesday when Allison was attending Lucy's school conference. She had proof of the conference. She had signed in at the front desk. She had exchanged messages with Lucy's teacher. But remote approvals could be made from anywhere, and the records would only prove she had not been sitting at her desk. She needed more. At 7:30, her phone rang. The caller was her coworker, Priya Nair. Allison answered. "Are you okay?" Priya asked. "I don't know." "They told us you're on administrative leave." "Did they say why?" "No. Vanessa called a team meeting and said there had been a compliance concern. Then she reminded us that discussing internal investigations could result in disciplinary action." "Did anyone ask questions?" "Ethan did." She ended the meeting. Allison looked toward Lucy, who was practicing trumpet quietly in her bedroom. "Priya, do you remember the temporary approval profile Vanessa created when she went to Phoenix?" There was a pause. "Yes." "Did she ever tell you she could access it?" "Not directly." "Did you ever see her use it?" Another pause. "Allison, I want to help you, but I can't lose my job." "I'm not asking you to risk your job. What are they accusing you of?" $40,000 in unauthorized payments. Priya inhaled sharply. "Allison, it wasn't me. I know." The words came so quickly that Allison closed her eyes. "You believe me? You correct people when they accidentally reimburse you for parking twice. Of course I believe you." Relief moved through Allison like warmth. "But belief isn't evidence," Priya continued. "Vanessa has been gathering documents all day." "What kind of documents?" "Performance notes, payroll requests, your schedule changes. She asked me whether you had ever complained about money." "What did you say?" "I said everyone complains about money." Allison almost smiled. Priya lowered her voice. "There's something else. Vanessa told Daniel she warned you about inappropriate vendor communication last month." "She never warned me." "I know. I processed the meeting notes. There's nothing in your file." "There will be soon." "You think she'll add something?" "I think she's building a story." Priya went quiet. Then she said, "Do you remember Marcus, the night security guard? He asked about you this afternoon." "Why?" "He wanted to know why your badge had been deactivated." Allison sat straighter. Marcus Hill worked for the company that provided overnight building security. He was in his late 50s, quiet and observant. Allison often saw him when she stayed late during quarterly reporting. "What exactly did he say?" "He asked whether you were leaving the company. When I told him I didn't know, he said something strange." "What?" "He said, then somebody should check who was really here on those weekends." Allison stopped breathing for a moment. "Did he say anything else?" "No." Vanessa walked past, and he left. Allison opened her notebook and wrote Marcus in large letters. "Do you have his contact information?" "No, but his security company is called Front Range Protective Services." "Thank you." "Allison?" "Yes?" "Be careful. Vanessa looks calm." "I know. That's what worries me." After the call, Allison searched the security company online. A general office number appeared, but it was already after business hours. She wrote it beneath Marcus's name. Lucy emerged from her bedroom. "Did you find something?" "Maybe." "Is that good?" "It's a beginning." Lucy looked at the papers spread across the table. "Can I help?" Allison almost said no. Then she remembered how powerless she had felt in the conference room. "You can help me remember something," she said. "On April 18th, where were we?" Lucy took the phone and checked the family calendar. That was the spring concert. What time? 7. Were we together before it? You picked me up at 5:30. We ate pizza in the car because I had rehearsal. The first suspicious payment had been approved at 8:14 that evening. Allison had been sitting in a school auditorium, recording Lucy's trumpet solo. She opened her photo library. At 8:12, she had recorded a video, 2 minutes before the approval. For the first time all day, the evidence on the table did not belong to Vanessa. The next morning, Allison called Front Range Protective Services at 8 o'clock. A receptionist answered and refused to provide Marcus Hill's personal contact information. Allison explained that she had worked in the building Marcus guarded and needed to ask him about a workplace investigation. The receptionist transferred her to a supervisor. The supervisor said employees were prohibited from discussing client security matters. Allison asked whether she could leave a message. 30 minutes later, she had repeated the same request to 3 people. Finally, a man named Glenn agreed to write down her number. "We cannot guarantee Mr. Hill will contact you," he said. "I understand. And he cannot disclose protected client information. I'm only asking him to tell the truth about something he personally observed. That may still involve client information." Allison thanked him and ended the call. At 9:17, Rebecca from Human Resources emailed Allison's personal account. The message contained a formal notice of suspension and an invitation to submit a written response by Friday at noon. Allison would not be permitted to enter the office without written approval. She was instructed not to contact employees regarding the investigation. She read the final instruction twice. She had already spoken to Priya. She had already tried to contact Marcus. Vanessa had isolated her before Allison understood she was supposed to be silent. The email included copies of the 4 payment authorizations. Allison opened each one carefully. Her identification number appeared in every audit field. Yet something bothered her. The notes attached to the transfers used proper punctuation. Allison's standard internal notes were brief and usually lacked periods. Vanessa often insisted that documentation should read like formal correspondence. The difference was small, too small to prove anything. But Allison had built her career on small differences. She downloaded the documents and examined the metadata available in the exported files. The creation dates matched the transfer dates. The author field showed the automated system account rather than an individual user. Nothing useful. She compared the vendor profile for Summit Administrative Solutions with legitimate profiles she had created. The address was a commercial mailbox in Aurora. The contact number had a local area code. The tax identification field was hidden in the report. She searched the company name online. No website, no professional profile, no state business listing that she could immediately find. At 10:04, Daniel called. "Allison, this conversation is part of the investigation." "I understand. Rebecca sent you the supporting documents. I'm reviewing them. Do you have an initial explanation?" "Yes. Someone used the emergency profile after I believed it had been disabled." "Who?" "I don't know yet. Yesterday, you accused Vanessa. I said Vanessa told me she could access the profile. She denies that." "I know." Daniel exhaled. "I'm trying to give you an opportunity here." "Is there any reason you would have needed additional money in April?" "No." "You were late on a company health plan payment." "The automatic deduction failed when payroll changed systems. It was corrected the same week. You sold some personal items online. Allison stared at the phone. How do you know that? There are screenshots in the documentation. She remembered listing an old television, a bicycle Lucy had outgrown, and a dining table on a neighborhood marketplace. Normal household decisions had been photographed and filed as evidence of financial desperation. Selling a bicycle doesn't make me responsible for missing money. No, but we have to consider the complete picture. Then, consider the complete picture. I was at my daughter's school concert during the first approval. The system allows remote access. I was recording her performance 2 minutes before the transfer. That proves where you were. It does not prove you didn't use your phone. The payment required multiple screens, vendor verification, and a security code. I couldn't have completed it in 2 minutes while filming. Daniel paused. That's a fair point. It was the first fair thing anyone in management had said. Allison continued. The second transfer happened on April 26th at 9:03 p.m. I was logged into the quarterly reporting environment until 8:50. Check which device initiated the payment. We're reviewing technical records. Then review the IP address. Review the device identification. Review the security cameras. Review the badge logs. Allison, someone entered that building after I left. You don't know that. A security guard seems to think so. Daniel's tone changed. Have you contacted building security? I left a message for someone who may have relevant information. You were instructed not to contact employees. He doesn't work for our company. You're walking a dangerous line. I'm trying to protect my name. This process is designed to establish facts. No, this process started with Vanessa's facts. I'm trying to find the ones she left out. Daniel became quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Submit everything through HR. Do not attempt to conduct your own investigation. If I wait for the people who already decided no one believes me, I won't have a job by Friday. That decision has not been made. Then why did Vanessa spend yesterday collecting evidence about my personal finances? Daniel did not answer. Allison heard movement on his end of the call, followed by a door closing. She's documenting possible motive, he said. Who is documenting her motive? This is not productive. Did you know the emergency profile remained active? No. Did Vanessa? I don't know. Then ask her. Daniel ended the call soon, afterward. At 11:30, Allison drove to the commercial mailbox listed for Summit Administrative Solutions. She did not know what she expected to find. The address belonged to a shipping store in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation office. Inside, rows of numbered boxes covered one wall. A young employee stood behind the counter. Allison showed him the company name. I'm trying to verify whether a vendor receives mail here. I can't confirm customer information. Can you tell me whether this suite number is valid? He looked at the address. It's one of our boxes. Is Summit Administrative Solutions registered to it? I can't tell you. What would happen if someone sent a certified letter? We'd notify the box holder. Would they have to show identification to collect it? Yes. Allison thanked him. As she turned to leave, the employee said, You might want to check the state registration again. I couldn't find one. Some businesses file under a person's name or a different legal name. Outside, Allison sat in her car and searched the state database using variations of the vendor name. Summit Administrative, Summit Admin Solutions, SAS Consulting. Nothing. Then she searched the commercial address itself. Several companies appeared. One was Cole Business Services. Registered agent, Elaine Cole. Allison read the name twice. Vanessa's mother was named Elaine. Allison did not know whether that connection meant anything. Cole was a common surname. The business could be unrelated. She took screenshots and added them to her timeline. At 1:08, her phone rang from an unfamiliar number. "This is Marcus Hill," a man said. "You left a message for me." Allison sat up. "Thank you for calling. My supervisor said you had questions about nights at the Meridian building." "I do, but I don't want you to violate any agreement." "Then don't ask me for logs or recordings." "I won't. I only want to know what you personally remember." Marcus was silent for a moment. "All right. Did you see Vanessa Cole in the office on any nights or weekends in April?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation. "How many times?" "At least 3. Was she supposed to be there?" "I don't know her schedule." "She told the company she was traveling during part of that period. Then she wasn't telling the truth." Allison closed her eyes. "Do you remember specific dates?" "I remember the night of the school concert." "How could you know about the concert?" "You showed me the program earlier that week. You said your daughter had a trumpet solo." Allison remembered. She had stopped at the security desk while leaving late on Wednesday. Marcus had told her his granddaughter played clarinet. "That Friday," Marcus continued, "Ms. Cole entered a little after 7:30. She told me she had forgotten a folder." "Did she leave with one?" "She left carrying the same purse she came in with." "What time?" "Around 9. The transfer had been approved at 8:14. "Marcus, would you be willing to tell HR what you just told me?" "I already tried." Allison's hand tightened around the phone. "When?" "Yesterday afternoon. I called the number on the employee directory." "What did they say?" "A woman took my name. Nobody called back." "Would you provide a written statement?" "That could cost me my contract." "I understand." "No," Marcus said. "I don't think you do. I'm 61 years old. I need this job." Allison lowered her voice. "I won't ask you to risk it." "I didn't say I wouldn't help." She waited. Marcus continued. "I said I need to do it carefully." By Wednesday morning, Allison's suspension had become the most discussed secret in the office. Priya did not tell Allison that directly. She did not have to. 3 former coworkers sent short messages asking whether she was okay. One person wrote, "I'm sure everything will work out," which sounded less like support and more like distance. A junior analyst named Ethan sent nothing, but he viewed Allison's professional profile 4 times. Vanessa did not contact her. Allison spent the morning reviewing the 4 payment reports. Each transfer had been divided below the company's threshold for automatic executive review. Any payment above $10,000 required a second approval from Daniel. All 4 remained safely below that limit. That fact suggested knowledge of the internal controls. So did the timing. The transfers occurred during periods when the finance team was distracted. The spring concert weekend, quarter-end reporting, a system update, and a company-wide training day. The person responsible had not chosen random moments. They had selected moments when unusual access would disappear into ordinary confusion. At noon, Priya called from her car. "I only have 10 minutes. You shouldn't be calling me if it puts you at risk. I'm on lunch, and I'm calling as your friend." "What happened?" "Vanessa asked me to sign a statement." "What statement?" "It says you were solely responsible for maintaining the emergency profile." "Were you asked to maintain it?" "No." "Did you know Vanessa had access?" "I saw her use your workstation once while you were at lunch." Allison stopped writing. "When?" "February, during the 2 weeks she was supposed to be helping her sister." "She was in Phoenix." "She was supposed to be, but she came into the office on the second Thursday." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I assumed her plans changed." "What did she do at my workstation?" "She said she needed to check whether a payment had cleared. She asked me not to log you out because she knew the profile password." "Did she say which profile?" "The emergency profile." Allison pressed the pen so hard against the paper that the tip tore through. "Will you put that in writing?" "I don't know." "Priya, they're trying to make you sign the opposite." "I know." "What did you tell her?" "I said I needed time to read it." "Don't sign anything false." "She said refusing would raise questions about my loyalty." "That's intimidation." "She called it cooperation." Allison looked at the timeline covering half her kitchen table. "Send yourself a note from your personal email describing exactly what happened and when. Don't use company systems. Don't send it to me unless you decide you're comfortable, but preserve your memory now." "Okay. And keep a copy of the statement Vanessa gave you." "She didn't let me take it." "Then write down what it said." Priya lowered her voice. "There's more. Vanessa scheduled a conference with Daniel and HR tomorrow at 4. "About me?" "She told the department she expects the matter to be resolved afterward." "Resolved." The word meant termination. "What time did you say?" 4. Allison wrote it down. "Thank you." After the call, she opened the formal response HR had requested. She began with a simple statement. "I did not create, authorize, or benefit from the 4 transfers associated with Summit Administrative Solutions." She described the emergency profile, Vanessa's access, her own locations during each payment, and the potential relationship between the commercial mailbox and Cole Business Services. She included screenshots, photographs, school records, and timestamps. She did not include Marcus's name. Not yet. At 2:40, Marcus called again. "I spoke with my supervisor," he said. "What did he say?" "He reminded me that security records belong to the client." "I expected that." "But he also said the records can be released if the client's owner or legal department requests them." "HR could request them." "They could." "Will they?" "That depends on whether they want to know what happened." Allison understood. "Do the records still exist?" "Badge logs are stored for a year. Video is different." "How long?" "Normally 30 days. Allison's heart sank. The first transfer had occurred more than a month earlier. "Normally?" she asked. "There was a security incident in April. A loading dock door malfunctioned. We preserved several weeks of video for review." "Including the finance floor?" "Possibly." "Can you confirm that?" "No." "Can you tell me whether Vanessa appears on it?" "I haven't reviewed it." Allison leaned back. "What about your own records?" "I keep an incident notebook during every shift. It's not an official company document. It's how I remember who enters after hours. Did you write down Vanessa's visits? I wrote down everyone's visits. Would you show it to HR? If they ask me directly? What if they don't? Marcus was quiet. Then he said, sometimes people avoid asking questions because they're afraid of the answer. Allison thought of Daniel's silence when she asked whether anyone was investigating Vanessa. What can I do? Give them a reason they cannot ignore. That afternoon, Allison drove to Lucy's school for a meeting with the music teacher. She had considered canceling, but Lucy was auditioning for a regional youth ensemble, and Allison refused to let Vanessa take one more ordinary part of their life. While the teacher explained rehearsal schedules, Allison's phone vibrated repeatedly in her bag. She ignored it. Afterward, Lucy walked beside her toward the parking lot. You didn't check your phone once, Lucy said. I was listening. You always check it? I'm trying to improve. Lucy smiled. Inside the car, Allison read 3 messages. The first was from an unknown number. This is Ethan. Please don't respond. Check whether all 4 vendor requests were submitted from the same workstation. The second arrived 2 minutes later. Vanessa is telling IT not to preserve old access records because the case is already documented. The third message contained only 2 words, Workstation 14. Allison knew Workstation 14. It sat in a small side office beside Vanessa's desk. It was normally used by temporary auditors. During April, no auditors had been assigned to the department. Allison called Daniel. He did not answer. She called Rebecca. Voicemail. She sent both of them an email marked urgent. Please preserve all badge logs, video records, device records, IP logs, and workstation activity associated with Workstation 14 and the emergency approval profile. Destruction or routine deletion of these records after notice may compromise the integrity of the investigation. She copied the company's general legal department address. Within 7 minutes, Rebecca replied, Your request has been received. Nothing else. At home that evening, Lucy studied the timeline. Why are there red circles around these times? They're when the payments happened. And the blue marks? Places where I can prove I was somewhere else. Lucy pointed to one transfer. What about this one? Allison looked at the Tuesday payment. That's the one approved while I was at your school conference. But you left your work phone at home that day. Allison turned toward her. What? You came back for it after the conference. The memory returned, slowly. That morning, Lucy had spilled orange juice near the kitchen counter. Allison had moved her company phone to the bedroom while cleaning. She left without it and did not realize until she reached the office parking lot after the school meeting. The payment occurred while the phone was in the apartment. If the security verification code had been sent to her work phone, the transfer should have been impossible, unless someone had changed the authentication method, or unless Vanessa possessed another registered device. Allison opened the payment report. The authorization field listed verification completed. It did not identify the device. She added another demand to her preservation email. At 9:26, Daniel finally called. You copied legal. I did. That escalated the situation. The situation involves $40,000 and false documents. It was already escalated. Where did you get the reference to Workstation 14? I'm not discussing my sources. You were instructed not to contact employees. I received information. From whom? Someone who wants the truth preserved. Daniel sighed. Allison, your approach is making cooperation more difficult. My approach is the only reason those logs might still exist tomorrow. You're assuming someone intended to delete them. I'm assuming routine deletion would benefit the person who used that workstation. Daniel became silent. Then he said, The owner will be in the building tomorrow. Allison looked at the 4 o'clock meeting on her timeline. Why? He was already scheduled to review another matter. Will he attend the conference about me? I don't know. Daniel, before you end my career, ask yourself why someone who supposedly stole $40,000 is begging you to preserve evidence. I have asked myself, and that is why I haven't signed the termination recommendation. Allison closed her eyes. There was still a door open. It was narrow, but it was open. On Thursday morning, Vanessa arrived at the office carrying coffee for Daniel and Rebecca. She had slept well. That was what Priya noticed first. While the rest of the accounting department whispered and avoided eye contact, Vanessa moved through the office with the calm energy of someone preparing to complete a difficult but necessary task. At 9, she called Priya into her office. The statement waited on the desk. I need your signature before noon, Vanessa said. Priya remained standing. I can't sign it. Vanessa looked up. Why not? Because it says Allison was the only person who knew the emergency password. She was. I saw you use it. Vanessa's face remained still. When? In February, at Allison's workstation. You're mistaken. I remember what you said. What did I say? You said you knew the profile password. Vanessa closed the office door. The soft click made Priya's pulse accelerate. Memory is unreliable, Vanessa said, especially when people are under stress. I'm not under stress. You are now. Priya stared at her. Vanessa turned the statement around. This document does not accuse Allison of anything. It confirms established procedure. It confirms something that isn't true. It confirms that Allison accepted responsibility for the profile. That's not the same as being the only person with access. Vanessa leaned back. Priya, you have been with this company for less than 2 years. Your performance is strong, but you're still developing professional judgment. Is that a threat? It's advice. Priya thought of Allison sitting beside her during late reporting nights, explaining reconciliation methods without ever making her feel inexperienced. She thought of Vanessa collecting screenshots of Allison's household sales and presenting them as motive. No, Priya said. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. No? I won't sign it. You understand that refusing to cooperate may become part of your record. Then write down that I refuse to sign something false. Priya left before Vanessa could respond. At 10:15, Allison received a forwarded message from Priya's personal account. It contained a detailed description of Vanessa using the emergency profile in February, along with the conversation from that morning. Allison added it to her written response. At 10:42, Marcus sent a photograph of one handwritten page. He had covered employee names unrelated to the case. 3 entries remained visible. April 18th, 7:36 p.m. V. Cole entered finance floor. Stated she forgot documents. April 26th, 8:21 p.m. V. Cole entered with company laptop. Departed 9:28 p.m. May 4th, 6:51 a.m. V. Cole entered before scheduled cleaning crew. Each visit aligned with a suspicious transaction. Allison called him. "Are you sure you want me to use this?" "I'm sure I want the right people to see it. Your supervisor could discipline you." "My notebook belongs to me." "The information came from your work." "So did the truth." Allison swallowed. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. They may still ignore it." "They won't." "How do you know?" "Because I'm sending it to the owner." She had found the owner's email address on an old company announcement. Samuel Hart had founded Hartwell Distribution 31 years earlier. He was semi-retired but remained chairman and majority owner. Allison had met him twice, both times briefly. She drafted a message. "Mr. Hart, my name is Allison Reed. I have worked in your finance department for 6 years. Tomorrow, I may lose my job for transactions I did not authorize. I am not asking you to believe me because I am a loyal employee or a single mother. I am asking you to preserve and review objective evidence before anyone reaches a final decision." She attached the timeline, Marcus's notes, Priya's statement, her location evidence, and the request involving Workstation 14. She ended with Vanessa's favorite sentence: "The numbers never tell the whole story." Then she added, "But the complete records may." She sent the email at 11:07. At 11:12, it bounced back. The address was no longer active. Allison stared at the failure notification. For several minutes, she did nothing. Then she searched company filings, press releases, charitable foundation pages, and conference programs. Every address she found directed messages through corporate communications. At noon, she called the main office and asked for Samuel Hart. The receptionist transferred her to executive administration. An assistant answered. "My name is Allison Reed. I'm an employee, and I need to deliver evidence related to a financial investigation before 4 o'clock. Mr. Hart does not accept unscheduled employee calls." "I understand. Can I speak to his chief of staff?" "What is this regarding?" "A $40,000 loss that may be attributed to the wrong person." The assistant became more attentive. "Have you contacted Human Resources?" "Yes. Human Resources is preparing to terminate me. I cannot connect you to Mr. Hart based on an internal employment dispute." "This is not only an employment dispute. Someone used company systems to create false approvals. Send the information to legal." "I did. Then the appropriate departments have it." The line disconnected politely. Allison looked at the clock. 4 hours remained. At 12:28, Lucy called from school. "Mom? Is everything okay? I forgot my trumpet mouthpiece." Allison nearly laughed. In the middle of a fight for her career, the world still contained forgotten trumpet mouthpieces. "I'll bring it. Are you busy?" "Yes." "I can borrow one." "No, I'll bring yours." She found the mouthpiece beneath Lucy's music stand and drove to the school. At the front office, she signed the visitor log. The same receptionist who had been working during the Tuesday conference recognized her. "You're here again." "My daughter forgot something." The receptionist smiled. She gets that from every musician I have ever known. Allison looked at the sign-in sheet. Dates, times, names, purpose of visit, simple records that proved people were where they claimed to be. "Could I get a copy of my visitor entry from April 29th? She asked. The receptionist hesitated. "It's related to an employment matter." After Allison completed a records request form, The receptionist printed a copy showing Allison entered at 2:41 p.m. and left at 4:06 p.m. The suspicious payment occurred at 3:18. Before leaving, Allison asked, "Does the building have security cameras?" "In the lobby and parking lot." "How long is video kept?" 90 days. Another piece, not decisive, but real. At 1:30, Allison drove to the Hartwell building despite the instruction prohibiting her entry. She did not intend to go inside. She parked across the street and watched employees move behind the glass walls. At 2:05, a black sedan entered the underground garage. At 2:13, Priya texted, "Owner arrived." At 2:20, another message appeared. Vanessa moved meeting to 3:30. Allison's heart accelerated. The decision was moving closer. She called Rebecca. "Why was the meeting moved?" "How did you learn that?" "Am I being terminated at 3:30? "You are not authorized to participate in internal scheduling discussions." "I submitted evidence." "It is being reviewed." "By whom?" "Appropriate personnel." "Has anyone interviewed Marcus Hill?" "I cannot discuss that." "Has anyone requested the security records?" "Allison, has anyone examined workstation 14? Rebecca paused too long. "We will contact you after the meeting." Allison looked at the building. "No, I'm coming in." "You are not permitted on the premises." "I will wait in the lobby." "Security will remove you." "Then Marcus can remove me while explaining why Vanessa entered the office during every unauthorized transfer." Rebecca ended the call. Allison crossed the street. Marcus stood behind the lobby desk when Allison entered. He looked at her, then at the visitor restriction notice on his monitor. "You're not authorized to enter." "I know." "HR called 10 minutes ago." "I expected that." Marcus glanced toward the elevators. "Why are you here?" "To make it harder for them to pretend they couldn't reach me." "You may make things worse." "They already believe I stole $40,000. "That doesn't mean there isn't a worse." Allison placed her folder on the security desk. "I have evidence that could clear me." The meeting was moved forward. Marcus studied her face. "You're afraid." "Yes." "Good." She frowned. "People who aren't afraid take foolish risks. People who admit fear sometimes think before they act." "What do you suggest?" "Wait here. Follow the rules they can enforce. Challenge the ones they're using to hide." Allison sat in a chair near the lobby windows. At 2:47, Rebecca came downstairs. Her expression hardened when she saw Allison. "You were explicitly told not to enter the building." "I haven't passed security." "You need to leave." "I'm available to answer questions." "We will contact you." "The conference is in 43 minutes. Rebecca looked at Marcus. "Why wasn't she removed?" "She is in the public lobby." Marcus said, "She has not attempted to access a restricted area." "This is private property." "I can ask her to leave if management formally requests removal." "I am formally requesting it." Marcus reached for the phone. Before he lifted it, Allison said, "Have you reviewed his shift notebook?" Rebecca's attention returned to her. "That is part of an unauthorized disclosure. It shows Vanessa entered the building during 3 of the 4 transactions. We are investigating." "Then ask him." Rebecca looked at Marcus. "Were you on duty on April 18th? "Yes." "Did you see Vanessa Cole enter the building?" "Yes." The answer echoed through the marble lobby. Rebecca's face changed, only slightly, but Allison saw it. "Why wasn't this reported?" Rebecca asked. "I called HR on Monday." "I did not receive your message." A woman named Claire took it. Rebecca's posture stiffened. Did you document Ms. Cole's arrival? Yes. Do you possess company records? I possess my personal notes. Rebecca looked toward Allison's folder. Did you give those notes to Ms. Reed? I provided a photograph of relevant observations. That may violate your employer's contract. Then your company can discuss it with mine. Rebecca lowered her voice. Marcus, this is a sensitive investigation. It was sensitive when I called Monday. The elevator opened behind her. Daniel stepped into the lobby. He looked exhausted. Allison, why are you here? To participate in the meeting about my career. You cannot participate in an internal review. Then hold a meeting with me first. We've received your written response. Have you read it? Yes. All of it? Yes. Then you know Vanessa had access. I know there is conflicting testimony. You know she was physically inside the building during the transfers. That evidence is being verified. How? Daniel glanced at Rebecca. We requested badge records. When? This morning, after I demanded they be preserved. The timing is not relevant. It is relevant to me. A man entered the lobby through a side corridor. He was tall, silver-haired, and walked with a wooden cane. Allison recognized Samuel Hart from company photographs. Everyone became silent. Mr. Hart looked from Daniel to Rebecca, then to Allison. Which one of you is Allison Reed? I am. He approached slowly. I received a printed package with your name on it. Allison looked toward Marcus. Marcus shook his head. I didn't send it, he said. Mr. Hart held up a large envelope. The package was left with my driver at 1 o'clock. No return name. Priya, Allison thought. Or Ethan. Someone inside the building had made sure the evidence reached him. Mr. Hart tapped the folder against his palm. Why am I reading about security logs for the first time 2 hours before termination conference? Daniel answered carefully. The information was recently submitted. The security guard says he called Monday. Rebecca said, his message may have been misrouted. Mr. Hart looked at Marcus. Were you misrouted? I was ignored. Mr. Hart turned toward Allison. You were told to leave the property? Yes. And you came anyway? Yes. Why? Because people were preparing to decide whether I was honest without asking the witnesses who could prove it. He studied her for several seconds. Then he looked at Daniel. Move the meeting back to 4. Daniel nodded. Of course. And add Ms. Reed, Rebecca began. There may be procedural concerns. I own the procedure until someone shows me a law saying otherwise. He turned to Marcus. You too. Marcus looked surprised. Mr. Hart glanced toward the elevators. Where is Miss Cole? Upstairs, Daniel said. Good. Don't tell her the agenda changed. Vanessa entered the conference room at 3:58, carrying the same navy folder she had used on Monday. She stopped when she saw Allison. For the first time, certainty left her face. Allison sat beside Marcus. Priya occupied a chair near the wall. Ethan sat farther back with an IT administrator named Carlos. Daniel and Rebecca sat across from Mr. Hart. Vanessa recovered quickly. I wasn't informed Allison would attend. Mr. Hart gestured toward the empty chair. You are now. Vanessa sat. Daniel opened the meeting. The purpose of this conference is to review evidence regarding 4 unauthorized transfers totaling $40,000. Initial system records connected the transactions to an emergency profile assigned to Allison Reed. Assigned at whose request? Mr. Hart asked. Daniel looked at Vanessa. Vanessa answered, I requested the profile to ensure continuity during my temporary absence. Why was it assigned to Allison? She was the senior analyst available. Who knew the password? Allison. Priya shifted in her chair. Mr. Hart noticed. Ms. Nair? Priya looked at Vanessa before speaking. I saw Vanessa use the profile in February. Vanessa's jaw tightened. That is inaccurate. She told me she knew the password. I may have known a temporary setup password. That does not mean I accessed the profile. Carlos opened his laptop. We examined the profile history this afternoon. 2 authentication devices were registered. Silence filled the room. Allison leaned forward. Which devices? Carlos read from the report. One was Allison's company phone. The second was a tablet assigned to the finance manager's office. Every face turned toward Vanessa. She did not move. Shared equipment, she said. Anyone could have used it. Carlos continued. The tablet was stored in a locked cabinet. Badge access to the manager's office was limited to Vanessa, Daniel, facilities, and executive administration. Daniel looked stunned. I never used that office. Mr. Hart turned to Marcus. Tell us what you observed. Marcus opened his notebook. He read the dates and times of Vanessa's after-hours visits. Vanessa interrupted. I often work outside normal hours. You told the director you were in Phoenix on April 18th, Allison said. My travel plans changed. Why didn't you tell anyone? I wasn't required to report personal travel changes. You told Marcus you forgot documents. You stayed for more than an hour. I had work to complete. On workstation 14, Vanessa looked toward Ethan. The junior analyst lowered his eyes. Carlos answered. All 4 vendor requests originated from workstation 14. Vanessa's voice sharpened. Then the workstation was compromised. By whom? Mr. Hart asked. We don't know. Who used it? We don't know. Carlos lifted one finger. We do have some information. He projected a security log onto the wall. Workstation 14 was activated with a physical security key. The key was assigned to Vanessa Cole. Vanessa's face went pale. That key was kept in my desk. Someone could have taken it. The key requires a fingerprint. The scanner is unreliable. We tested it. That proves nothing about April. Mr. Hart rested both hands on his cane. Then perhaps the recording will. Vanessa turned toward him. What recording? Mr. Hart nodded to Carlos. The lights dimmed. Carlos opened an audio file. For 1 second, there was only static. Then Vanessa's voice filled the conference room. Use Allison's employee number. She already accepted responsibility for the profile. A man's voice answered. Won't the audit show your device? Not if the approvals are made from the side office. What if she notices the profile is still active? She won't. She trusts me. A pause followed. Then the man asked, And if finance investigates? Vanessa laughed softly. They'll believe the records. Allison is a single mother who has asked for money twice. I've already documented everything. No one moved. The recording continued. She'll deny it, the man said. Of course she will. What if someone believes her? Vanessa's voice became colder. No one will believe a single mother over system records and a manager's report. Carlos stopped the recording. Vanessa stood so quickly that her chair struck the wall. That is manipulated. Mr. Hart looked at her. The recording came from a conference room quality review system you authorized last year. Meetings are sampled automatically for training and compliance. Vanessa stared at the speaker as though it had betrayed her. I never consented to private conversations being recorded. You approved the policy, Rebecca said quietly. Vanessa turned toward Allison. Her expression was no longer calm. Tell them this was a misunderstanding. Allison said nothing. You knew about the shared access, Vanessa continued. You knew we were trying to solve a cash flow issue. I knew nothing about those transfers. Don't do this. For the first time, Vanessa sounded afraid. She stepped closer to Allison. We can explain it together. You don't understand what will happen if you speak. Marcus rose from his chair. Sit down, Ms. Cole. Vanessa ignored him. Allison, please. The word please changed the room. 3 days earlier, Vanessa had called her desperate. Now Vanessa was the one begging. Tell them I never meant to blame you, she said. Allison looked at the woman who had studied her private difficulties, collected them, and arranged them into a false portrait. She thought of Lucy's grilled cheese sandwich beside the laptop. She thought of Priya refusing to sign. She thought of Marcus writing down every person who entered after hours because details mattered even when no one noticed them. Then, Allison repeated the sentence Vanessa had once used against her. The numbers never tell the whole story. Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. Allison, but the recording does. The meeting did not end with applause. Real consequences rarely arrived with dramatic music or instant relief. They arrived through procedures, suspended access, closed doors, legal notices, and people speaking in carefully controlled voices. Rebecca asked Vanessa to surrender her badge, company phone, laptop, tablet, and security key. Vanessa stood motionless. This company cannot do this based on one recording. Mr. Hart looked at her. The recording is not the only evidence. You don't know the context. The context will be examined. I have worked here for 11 years. So has the truth, Marcus said. You just hoped nobody would check it. Rebecca gave him a warning look, but Mr. Hart did not object. Vanessa removed her badge. Her hand trembled as she placed it on the table. Allison remembered the moment she had done the same thing. The difference was not satisfying. She had expected vindication to feel like strength returning. Instead, she felt tired. Vanessa looked at her one final time. You could stop this. No, Allison said. You could have stopped it. Security escorted Vanessa from the room. The man whose voice appeared in the recording was identified as Grant Ellis, an outside bookkeeping contractor who had helped establish Summit Administrative Solutions. His access was suspended, and the company's legal counsel began tracing the payments. The $40,000 had not simply disappeared into one account. It had moved through multiple administrative payments disguised as consulting services. The investigation would continue. Daniel closed his laptop. Allison, I owe you an apology. She looked at him. You owe me more than that. He nodded. Yes. Rebecca folded her hands. Your suspension is lifted immediately. Is the accusation removed from my record? Yes. Are the statements about my personal finances being removed? Yes. Will everyone who was told I was under investigation be Informed that the evidence cleared me? Rebecca hesitated. Mr. Hart answered for her. Yes. Allison turned toward him. I don't want a vague statement about the matter being resolved. I want the company to say the transactions were not authorized by me. That is reasonable. I also want written confirmation that my employment record contains no misconduct finding. You'll have it. And Priya and Ethan should not face retaliation for preserving evidence. Priya looked surprised. Ethan raised his head. Mr. Hart nodded. They won't. Marcus closed his notebook. What about my contract? Mr. Hart looked toward him. Your company may have concerns about disclosure. I expected that. I have concerns about a company where a security officer reports suspicious access and gets ignored. I'll speak with your supervisor. Marcus gave a small nod. Daniel looked at Allison. You can return Monday. No. The answer surprised everyone. Allison had not planned it, but once spoken, it felt true. I'm not ready to sit at my desk Monday and pretend the last 4 days were an administrative inconvenience. No one expects you to pretend, Daniel said. You expected me to surrender my badge while Vanessa described me as desperate. I should have challenged that. You should have investigated before letting her use my daughter, my bills, and my requests for overtime as evidence of character. Daniel looked down. Allison continued, I need time. Paid time. Rebecca opened her mouth, but Mr. Hart lifted a hand. How much? 2 weeks. You have them. And I want independent counsel to review how this investigation was handled. That will happen. Allison stood. Her knees felt weak, but her voice did not. I'll discuss returning after I receive the written findings. Mr. Hart studied her with an expression that was not quite approval and not quite surprise. You know, he said, most people in your position would be relieved to keep their job. I was relieved 20 minutes ago. Now I'm thinking about why it was so easy to take it from me. No one answered. Outside the conference room, the accounting department had gone quiet. Employees watched as Allison walked toward the elevators. This time she carried no box. Priya caught up with her. Are you really not coming back Monday? I don't know whether I'm coming back at all. But you won. Allison pressed the elevator button. I proved I didn't do it. That's not the same thing. The doors opened. Priya stepped inside with her. In the lobby, Marcus waited behind the security desk. Allison stopped. You kept the best records in the building. Marcus smiled slightly. I write down what people think nobody sees. Thank you. You did the hard part. I almost stayed home. But you didn't. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking over the mountains, exposing a narrow line of afternoon light. Lucy was waiting at school when Allison arrived. She climbed into the car and immediately searched her mother's face. What happened? They found the proof. Lucy's shoulders dropped. So you're not in trouble? No. Did they apologize? Some of them did. Did your manager? No. Lucy considered that. Is she in trouble? Yes. Are you going back to work? Not yet. Lucy placed the trumpet case on the floor. Can we get pizza? Allison laughed, and the sound surprised her. Yes. From the place with the garlic crust? Yes. Can I get a large? There are 2 of us. I'm celebrating. Allison started the car. So am I. They drove through Denver with the windows slightly open, letting cold, clean air enter the car. For the first time since Monday morning, Allison did not feel as if she were running from someone else's story about her. She was moving toward her own. During the first week of her paid leave, Allison woke every morning at 6:15 out of habit. She would lie in bed for several seconds, expecting the familiar pressure of unread emails and urgent approvals. Then she would remember that her company phone was still in evidence storage, and her badge sat somewhere inside HR. The absence of responsibility did not feel peaceful. It felt unnatural. She made breakfast for Lucy, walked her to the bus stop, and returned to an apartment that seemed too quiet. On Tuesday, the company sent written confirmation that she had been cleared of wrongdoing. The letter described unauthorized credential access by another party, but did not name Vanessa. Allison replied that the language was insufficient. On Wednesday, a revised letter arrived. It confirmed that Allison had neither initiated nor approved the disputed payments, and that evidence had established access by other individuals. Better, still careful. The company also offered 6 weeks of additional paid leave, reimbursement for legal consultation, and a compensation payment in exchange for signing a confidential settlement. Allison printed the document and placed it on the kitchen table. The payment was significant. It would clear her remaining credit card balance, create an emergency fund, and cover Lucy's music program for several years. It would also prevent Allison from speaking publicly about the investigation. She called an employment attorney named Rachel Kim. Rachel reviewed the agreement and asked, "What outcome matters most to you?" "I want my name cleared." "It is cleared internally." "Internally isn't where the damage stopped." "Have people outside the company heard the accusation?" "I don't know." "Has it affected future employment?" "I haven't applied anywhere." "Then we're discussing potential damage, not documented damage." Allison disliked how familiar that distinction sounded. "What about the way they use my personal finances?" "That may support a claim involving improper investigation practices, but the company corrected the decision before termination." "They suspended me." "Paid suspension is generally permitted during an investigation." "They told me no one believed my story." "That was inappropriate. It may not be legally actionable by itself." Allison looked at the settlement amount. "So the law doesn't care." "The law cares about things it can measure. The numbers never tell the whole story." Rachel smiled faintly. "No, but courts usually ask for numbers anyway." Allison hired her to negotiate revisions. She requested a neutral employment reference, written protection against retaliation, confirmation that Priya and Ethan would not be disciplined, reimbursement for therapy sessions if needed, and the right to describe the incident privately to future employers if asked about the leave. The company accepted most of the terms. Mr. Hart called on Friday. "I hear you're negotiating aggressively. I learned from the finance department." He laughed once. "I deserve that." They spoke for nearly an hour. He told her the internal review had found several failures. Vanessa had retained access to the emergency profile after her trip. IT had not disabled it because no formal expiration date had been entered. HR had relied too heavily on documents supplied by Vanessa. Daniel had failed to initiate an independent technical review before recommending suspension. "And the recording?" Allison asked. It came from a system Vanessa implemented after complaining that employees disputed verbal instructions. Allison almost smiled at the irony. Who sent the package to your driver? I don't know. Priya says it wasn't her. Ethan denies it. Do you believe him? I've learned not to reach conclusions without checking logs. Can the logs tell you? They show the file was printed from the training room. Several people entered that room. Perhaps the anonymous act belonged to more than one person. Someone printed the evidence. Someone carried it downstairs. Someone knew where Mr. Hart's driver waited. Maybe truth had not arrived through a single hero. Maybe it had moved through a quiet chain of people who each did one small brave thing. Are you asking me to come back? Allison said. Yes. Why? Because you're one of the best analysts we have. You believed I was responsible on Monday. I wasn't in the room Monday. Your company was. Mr. Hart accepted the correction. What would make returning possible? Allison had been considering that question. I won't report to Daniel. He has admitted mistakes. This isn't about punishment. I can't effectively work under someone who treated my financial circumstances as evidence of dishonesty. That limits our options. Then create a new one. What do you propose? An independent compliance role. I would review access controls, investigation procedures, and vendor approvals across departments. You want a promotion. I want the responsibility that matches what I had to do to clear my name. Mr. Hart was silent. That's ambitious. You asked. I did. And I want the title and salary in writing before I return. He laughed again, this time with genuine surprise. You don't sound desperate. I never was. After the call, Allison took Lucy to the park. They sat near a pond while Lucy practiced breathing exercises for trumpet. Are you going back? Lucy asked. Maybe. Do you want to? I want to know I'm not going back because I'm afraid to leave. Lucy picked at the grass. What's the difference? If I stay because I choose the work, that's a decision. If I stay because I think no one else will hire me, that's fear. Will someone else hire you? Yes. Allison said it before doubt could speak. Lucy nodded as though the matter were settled. Then choose the one you like better. Adults spent years complicating questions children could sometimes reduce to their honest center. That evening, Allison updated her resume for the first time in 6 years. She did not write that she had survived a false accusation. She wrote that she specialized in identifying control weaknesses, reconciling complex financial records, and detecting inconsistencies across technical systems. All true. By midnight, she had applied for 3 positions. She closed the laptop without knowing which future she wanted. For the first time, she understood that uncertainty and power could exist together. The company's investigation continued for 7 weeks. Vanessa was dismissed after refusing a second interview and disputing the authenticity of the internal recordings. Grant Ellis's contract was terminated. A civil action sought recovery of the transferred funds, and external investigators reviewed whether additional false vendors had been created. Allison did not follow every development. She returned to Hartwell Distribution under a new title, Senior Compliance and Controls Analyst. She reported directly to the audit committee rather than Daniel. Her first assignment was to examine how a manager had been able to control the evidence used to accuse a subordinate. She began with interviews, not interrogations, interviews. She asked Rebecca why HR accepted screenshots of Allison's personal marketplace listings. Rebecca looked uncomfortable. Vanessa presented them as evidence of financial pressure. Did you ask how she obtained them? No. Did you ask whether selling household items was unusual? No. Did you compare my financial circumstances with those of other employees? No. Then why was it considered relevant? Rebecca folded her hands. Because it supported the theory we were given. Allison wrote that sentence down. Evidence had not created the theory. The theory had selected the evidence. Daniel's interview was more difficult. He apologized again. Allison did not reassure him. Why didn't you order a device review before the suspension? She asked. The approvals were connected to your profile. That is not an answer. I believed the digital trail was strong. You believed it because it was simple. Daniel looked toward the window. Yes. And Vanessa's position influenced you. Yes. And my position influenced you. He turned back. What do you mean? You found it easier to believe a senior analyst could be desperate than a manager could be dishonest. Daniel's face tightened. That wasn't conscious. Most dangerous assumptions aren't. He accepted the statement without argument. Priya and Ethan became formal witnesses in the review. Neither faced retaliation. Marcus's employer initially issued him a warning for sharing his notebook. Mr. Hart responded by renegotiating the building's security contract and adding explicit protection for good faith reporting. The warning disappeared. One afternoon, Allison found Marcus in the lobby, replacing a pen in his uniform pocket. How's the new contract? She asked. More paperwork. You like paperwork. I like useful paperwork. He opened his notebook. The first page contained a printed label. Observations may be reported directly to compliance. Below it was Allison's office number. Look at that, she said. You're officially allowed to tell the truth now. I was always allowed. Now they admit it. He nodded toward the elevators. How does it feel being back? Different. Good different? I haven't decided. The office had changed around her. Some coworkers welcomed her warmly. Others apologized for not reaching out. A few avoided her, embarrassed by how quickly they had believed the rumors. Allison did not demand explanations from everyone. Silence had many causes: fear, uncertainty, self-protection, indifference. She had learned not to confuse them, even when they looked the same from a distance. One morning, a co-worker named Marlene approached her in the break room. I owe you an apology, Marlene said. For what? I believed it. Allison waited. When Vanessa said there had been suspicious payments, I thought about how much overtime you worked. I thought maybe you needed money. I did need money. Marlene's face fell. Not $40,000, Allison continued. Just the same money most people need. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. Do you forgive me? The question placed a responsibility on Allison she had not requested. I don't know you well enough for forgiveness to be the issue, she said gently. But I hope next time you ask what evidence is missing. Marlene nodded. That became the central principle of Allison's final report. Do not ask only what the records show. Ask what records should exist. The payment system showed Allison's employee number. The missing records showed another device. Vanessa's documents showed Allison had requested financial assistance. The missing context showed the assistance involved temporary dental expenses and had been repaid. The audit report showed approvals. The missing physical logs showed Vanessa entering the building. The accusation had been built from visible facts, arranged around invisible omissions. Allison presented her findings to the executive committee in September. She stood at the head of the same table where she had once surrendered her badge. Mr. Hart sat near the window. Daniel attended as regional director. Rebecca sat beside external counsel. Department leaders filled the remaining chairs. Allison projected a single sentence onto the screen. A record can be accurate and still create a lie. She explained how systems recorded credentials but not intent, approvals but not coercion, financial transactions but not the full circumstances surrounding them. She recommended mandatory expiration dates for temporary profiles, dual authentication reporting, independent evidence preservation, restrictions on collecting personal employee information, and a rule preventing an accuser from managing the investigation. When she finished, no one spoke for several seconds. Then Mr. Hart asked, "What happens when the records conflict with a person's story?" Allison looked around the table. "You investigate both. And if the person has less authority than the records? Records don't have authority. People give it to them." Daniel lowered his eyes. Allison continued, "The question is not whether we trust people or trust systems. The question is whether we design systems that allow one person to control the story." The committee approved every recommendation. Afterward, Mr. Hart remained in the room. "You've changed this company," he said. "The company had to be willing to change. I nearly lost you." "You nearly lost more than one employee." He nodded. "What do you mean?" Priya was prepared to resign. Ethan had already started interviewing elsewhere. Marcus's company could have moved him to another building. Mr. Hart looked surprised. "The accusation didn't isolate only me. It taught everyone what might happen if they became inconvenient. And now they're watching whether the reforms last." He looked at the blank screen. "Will they? That depends on what happens after people stop being embarrassed." Mr. Hart smiled faintly. "You don't make leadership comfortable. That isn't my role." "What is?" "To make sure comfort doesn't replace the truth." By late autumn, the $40,000 had become a line in a longer investigation. Most of the funds were recovered through frozen accounts and negotiated repayments. The company announced that Vanessa had been dismissed for policy violations and misrepresentation. It did not disclose every detail. Allison signed a revised settlement that compensated her for professional harm without preventing her from discussing the experience with attorneys, regulators, or future employers. She used part of the payment to clear debt. She placed the rest in savings. Then she bought Lucy a new trumpet. Not the most expensive model in the shop. Not a reckless celebration. A carefully researched intermediate instrument with a warm tone and valves that moved smoothly beneath Lucy's fingers. When Lucy opened the case, she covered her mouth. "This is mine?" "It is." "Did you buy it because of the settlement?" "I bought it because you earned it." Lucy lifted the trumpet. "It's beautiful. You still have to practice." I knew there was a catch. At Lucy's winter concert, Allison sat in the third row. The program began at 7. At 8:12, almost exactly 8 months after the first unauthorized transfer, Lucy stood for a short solo. Allison did not record it. She kept her phone in her purse and watched every second directly. The notes were not perfect. One began too sharply. Another trembled before Lucy recovered. But the melody continued. After the concert, Lucy asked, "Why didn't you film?" "I wanted to be there." "You were there last time." "I know, but I spent that whole night needing the video to prove where I was. I don't want every memory to become evidence." Lucy considered this. "So you just watched?" "I just watched." They walked toward the parking lot beneath strings of white lights. A woman called Allison's name. Priya hurried toward them with Ethan beside her. "We wanted to hear the famous trumpet solo," Priya said. Lucy smiled. "It wasn't famous." "It appeared in a major compliance investigation," Ethan said. "That makes it historically significant." Lucy laughed. They went for hot chocolate afterward. Marcus joined them after his shift, still wearing his security uniform. He gave Lucy a small notebook with a black cover. "For observations," he said. Lucy opened it. On the first page, Marcus had written, "Pay attention to what everyone else overlooks." Lucy looked at Allison. "That sounds like you." "It sounds like Marcus." "It sounds like both of you," Priya said. Allison watched the people gathered around the table. None of them had solved the problem alone. Priya had refused to sign. Ethan had preserved the workstation clue. Marcus had documented what he observed. Lucy had remembered the forgotten phone. Mr. Hart had been willing, eventually, to stop the process and listen. Even Daniel and Rebecca had contributed by admitting where the system failed, though their honesty arrived later than it should have. The truth had not entered the conference room as one perfect revelation. It had been assembled: a date, a message, a badge entry, a registered device, a human memory, a recording no one expected to exist. That understanding changed how Allison saw her profession. Financial analysis had once seemed clean to her. Numbers aligned or failed to align. Accounts balanced or did not. Records provided certainty. Now she understood that records were created by people, controlled by people, interpreted by people, and sometimes arranged to protect the person with the most power. The numbers mattered, but the spaces between them mattered too. In January, Allison received a job offer from a national audit firm. The salary was higher. The title was better. The company offered remote work, travel opportunities, and a clear path toward management. 6 months earlier, Allison would have accepted immediately. Instead, she asked for a week. She reviewed the offer at the kitchen table while Lucy completed homework. "Is it a good job?" Lucy asked. "Yes." "Better than your job?" "Different." "Would you have to leave Denver?" "No, but I'd travel." "How much?" "Maybe twice a month." Lucy nodded slowly. "You should take it if you want it." "What do you want?" "I want you not to miss concerts." "I wouldn't miss all of them." "That's not what I said." Allison smiled. "No, it isn't." The next day, she met Mr. Hart in his office. "I received another offer," she said. He removed his glasses. "I expected that eventually." "It's a strong offer. Do you want me to match it?" "Not exactly." "What do you want?" Allison placed a proposal on his desk. She wanted Hartwell to create a permanent Office of Ethics and Controls. She wanted authority to investigate cross-department complaints, direct access to the audit committee, and a small team trained in financial analysis, employee interviews, and systems review. She wanted Priya promoted into the team. She wanted a formal reporting relationship with building security. Mr. Hart read the proposal. You're asking for a department. I'm asking for a structure that doesn't depend on whether one employee is stubborn enough to sit in the lobby. This would cost more than matching the other offer. Yes. What happens if I say no? I accept the offer. He looked up. You've become very comfortable walking away. No, I've become comfortable knowing I can. That distinction seemed to interest him. He read the proposal again. You would report to the audit committee? Yes. Not to me? You're the owner. That's exactly why I shouldn't depend only on you. Mr. Hart smiled. You know how rarely employees say that? Probably as rarely as owners enjoy hearing it. Give me 3 days. 3 days later, the department was approved. Allison declined the national firm. Priya accepted the promotion after asking for 24 hours to think. You knew I'd say yes, Priya told her. I hoped. Why me? Because you refused to sign something false when refusing could have cost you. That isn't a technical qualification. No, it's harder to teach. Ethan joined 6 months later after completing additional systems training. Marcus became the official security liaison, though he insisted his title remain unchanged. I'm a guard, he said. I don't need a title that takes longer to say. The new team occupied 3 offices near the executive floor. Allison chose the smallest office. On her wall, she framed no awards. Instead, she framed a copy of the emergency profile deactivation policy. The document was ordinary and bureaucratic. It required an owner, an expiration date, dual authentication records, and independent review. No employee walking past would understand why it mattered. Allison did. Every safeguard looked boring before the day someone needed it. 1 year after the accusation, Allison received an envelope with no return address. It arrived at her apartment on a Saturday. Inside was a handwritten letter from Vanessa. Allison almost threw it away unopened. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table and read. Vanessa did not confess in simple language. She wrote about pressure, fear, mounting financial obligations, and decisions that became harder to reverse with each passing week. She claimed she had never intended for Allison to lose everything. She said the first false approval had been a temporary solution. The second had been necessary to hide the first. By the 4th transfer, she believed the only escape was to make the records point somewhere else. She chose Allison because Allison was trusted enough to have access, but vulnerable enough to be doubted. The letter contained an apology. It also contained excuses. Allison read it twice. Lucy entered the kitchen. What is that? A letter from Vanessa. What does she want? I'm not sure. Does she say sorry? Yes. Do you believe her? I believe she's sorry about what happened. That's not the same as being sorry she did it. No. Lucy sat across from her. Are you going to answer? Allison folded the letter. I don't know. For several days, she kept it in a drawer. She did not show it to the company. The legal investigation was nearly complete, and the letter contained no information the investigators did not already know. She considered writing an angry response. She considered writing nothing. Eventually, she took out a blank page. Vanessa, I received your letter. What happened to you did not begin when the recording was played. It began when you decided my life made me easier to accuse. You did not choose me because I was careless. You chose me because I was responsible. You knew I would cover urgent work, follow instructions, and try to solve problems quietly. You believed being a single mother made me weak. It made me practiced. I was already used to continuing while afraid, solving problems without applause, and protecting someone else even when I was exhausted. I do not accept your explanation as an excuse. I also will not spend the rest of my life carrying what you did. I hope you become honest about the choices that brought you here. Allison Shee mailed the letter without expecting a reply. None came. The act did not create dramatic closure, but it allowed Allison to empty the drawer. 2 years later, Lucy auditioned for the Denver Youth Wind Ensemble. The audition took place in a performing arts building across town. Parents waited in a wide hallway while students entered rehearsal rooms one by one. Lucy paced near the window. What if I mess up? You'll keep playing. What if I forget the second section? You'll find your place. What if they don't choose me? Then you'll still be a musician when you walk out. Lucy stopped pacing. That sounds like something from one of your investigation reports. My reports have less trumpet advice. A staff member called Lucy's name. She took one deep breath and entered the audition room. Allison sat alone in the hallway. Her phone vibrated. It was a message from Priya. We closed the vendor access review. No losses. All exceptions documented. Allison replied with a thumbs up and returned the phone to her purse. Across from her, another mother was speaking rapidly into a headset about a work deadline. 2 small children played near her feet, a laptop balanced on her knees. The woman noticed Allison looking and apologized. I'm trying to finish a report before my daughter comes out. You don't need to apologize. I must look completely disorganized. You look busy. The woman laughed tiredly. My manager says I take on too much. Do you? Probably. That doesn't make you dishonest. The woman looked confused. Allison smiled. Sorry, occupational habit. The audition room door opened. Lucy emerged without expression. How was it? Allison asked. I missed one entrance. Did you keep playing? Yes. Then how was the rest? Good. How good? Lucy's serious expression broke into a smile. Really good. 3 weeks later, she was accepted. At the first performance, Allison sat beside Priya, Ethan, Marcus, and Mr. Hart. Daniel attended with his wife. Rebecca arrived late and sat near the back. The group no longer existed because of the accusation. They had become connected through what each person chose afterward. Before the concert began, Mr. Hart handed Allison a printed annual report. The cover featured the company's new ethics and controls program. Your department prevented 3 major compliance failures this year, he said. Our systems prevented them. You designed the systems with a team. You still refuse individual credit. I know what individual stories can hide. The lights dimmed. Lucy entered the stage carrying the trumpet Allison had bought after the settlement. She found her seat, adjusted her music stand, and looked toward the audience. Her eyes found Allison. Allison lifted one hand. Lucy smiled. The conductor raised the baton. The first note filled the hall. Clear, steady, earned. Allison listened without reaching for her phone. She did not need proof that she had been there. She only needed to be present. Years later, employees at Hartwell still repeated the story of the missing $40,000. The details changed depending on who told it. Some said Allison had uncovered the scheme by examining bank timestamps. Others said a security guard had saved her. A few focused on the secret recording and described the owner entering the conference room at exactly 4 o'clock. People liked a single dramatic moment. They liked stories in which truth arrived all at once and silenced every liar. Allison knew better. The recording mattered because Ethan preserved the workstation logs. The workstation logs mattered because Priya challenged the false statement. Priya's statement mattered because Marcus documented the after-hours visits. Marcus's notes mattered because Lucy remembered where Allison had been. And all of it mattered because Allison refused to accept that an official record was the same thing as the truth. When she trained new investigators, she never began with the recording. She began with the badge. She described placing it on the table while 3 people watched. She described saying, "I understand," even though she did not understand how 6 years of honest work had become less persuasive than a folder assembled in a few weeks. Then she asked the trainees one question. What should the company have done before taking the badge? The answers varied. Preserve the device records. Separate the accuser from the investigation. Interview witnesses. Review physical access. Examine conflicts of interest. Challenge assumptions about motive. All correct. All too late for the version of Allison who had already walked through the accounting department carrying a box. That moment is why procedure matters, she told them. Not because companies need more paperwork, because every careless step lands on a real person. On the 5th anniversary of the incident, Marcus retired. The company held a reception in the lobby. Mr. Hart presented him with a plaque. Priya gave a speech about his attention to detail. Ethan created a slideshow containing photographs of Marcus at the security desk through different seasons. Lucy, now 17, played a short trumpet piece. When the applause ended, Marcus handed Allison his old notebook. The cover was worn. The corners had softened. Several pages were filled with dates, times, names, deliveries, unusual sounds, forgotten lights, and doors that did not close properly. "I can't take this," Allison said. "You can. It contains security information." "Not anymore. The official records were transferred. These are old observations." She opened to the page from April. Vanessa's entries remained exactly as they had been written years earlier. No dramatic language, no accusation, only dates and times. Facts waiting for someone to understand their importance. "What will you use now?" Allison asked. Marcus removed a new notebook from his jacket. "Retired people still observe things." She laughed. He nodded toward the old notebook. "Keep it somewhere people can see." Allison placed it in a glass case outside the Office of Ethics and Controls. Beneath it, she installed a small plaque. "Pay attention to what others overlook." Employees passed the display every day. Most did not know the full story. They did not need to. The lesson was larger than Vanessa, larger than the missing funds, and larger than the conference room, where a recording changed everything. Authority could organize facts into a convincing lie. Fear could keep honest people silent. Ordinary records could become extraordinary when someone cared enough to preserve them. and a person did not become unbelievable simply because believing them was inconvenient. On the morning the display was installed, Allison stood beside Lucy in the lobby. Lucy read the plaque. "You changed the wording. Marcus wrote everyone else. I used others. Why? It fit better. The original was better. I'll submit a revision request." Lucy smiled. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if there hadn't been a recording?" "Yes." "Would you still have proved it?" Allison looked through the glass doors toward the city. "I had the device records, the badge logs, Marcus's notes, your concert video, Priya's statement, and Ethan's message. That's not an answer." Allison considered the question honestly. "I think so," she said, "but it would have taken longer. And if they still didn't believe you, then I would have left knowing who I was." Lucy leaned against her shoulder. "That sounds difficult." "It is. Are you glad it happened?" "No." Lucy looked surprised. "People always say bad things make them stronger. Sometimes bad things reveal strength. That doesn't mean we should be grateful for the harm." "So what are you grateful for?" Allison looked at the notebook. "For the people who told the truth while they were afraid." The lobby doors opened as employees arrived for the day. Some greeted Allison. Others hurried toward the elevators. Marcus's replacement recorded a delivery time at the security desk. The company continued. Not perfectly. No company did. But temporary credentials expired automatically. Investigations began with independent evidence preservation. Personal circumstances could not be labeled motive without documented relevance. Security concerns reached Allison's team directly. The changes were quiet. That was how protection usually looked. Quiet until the day it mattered. Allison walked toward the elevators with Lucy beside her. 5 years earlier, she had crossed the same lobby, believing that her career could be erased by someone else's confidence. Now, her name appeared on the office, responsible for making sure no employee faced that room alone. The elevator doors opened. Before stepping inside, Allison glanced back at the notebook. The numbers had never told the whole story. They never would. But when people had the courage to question them, preserve what others ignored, and listen before judging, the truth had a chance to be heard. And sometimes that chance was enough to change everything. Fem da narrativa.